Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council. It is Monday, August 17th, 2020, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councillor Smith?
She is excused this evening.
Thank you. Councillor Parsons?
Here.
Councillor Herrera?
Here.
Mayor Clark?
Here.
Council President Freeman?
Here.
Councillor Reed?
Here.
And Councillor Kohler.
Here.
Thank you very much. If you are able, please stand and all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for joining us on this muggy summer evening, the last council meeting for the month of August. Under special orders of business, we don't have anything on the scheduled agenda, but we do have the opportunity to hear tonight from Marion County. As you may have heard at the last council meeting, it was fresh after a crash at the intersection of Quinniby and River. We wrote a letter. We found out very quickly that Marion County was already getting on it. So it is my pleasure to welcome you tonight to please introduce yourself and tell us what's going to be happening at this intersection at the corner of Keizer. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you having us here today. I'm Lonnie Radke, the county engineer for Marion County, and with me I have Brian Nicholas, the Public Works Director. So today we would like to give a brief presentation on what we're going to do, the intersection enhancements that will be taking place at River, Clear Lake, and Quinniby Roads intersection. Just to give you a little bit of a background, I have a feeling that most people in this room are very familiar with this intersection, but just to give those of you that are not a brief background, this is a severely skewed intersection with Clear Lake and Quinniby running east and westbound, and River Road running northeast and southwestbound. These skewed angles can make it challenging to make sharp turns and to see over your shoulder when you are making turning movements from this intersection. And we have seen that this intersection has a high crash rate. And we have seen that the most common causes and influences come from the movements off of the side roads at Clear Lake Road. Thank you. And Quinniby Road, as well as motorists that are turning left off of River Road and again, making those sharp curves, those turns. Often we're seeing that motorists are misjudging gaps or running the stop signs altogether. We have spent some time at this intersection before. Fairly recently, we updated signage. This picture here shows the stop sign at Clear Lake and River Road, and we did add signage saying that cross traffic does not stop. We've also updated the signs and ensured that they had retroreflectivity and that they were at adequate spacing in all four directions. And this intersection does currently meet engineering standards. But we have seen some crashes, so we have in the past, we've applied for grants for larger improvements here. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful at the time, but that has not kept us from wanting to make these improvements here today. We did recently we did some intersection volume analysis, traffic operations analysis, and found that while in the past warrants were not met for an always stop control scenario like this, they do in fact meet today, or actually in fact pre-COVID, they just met. So now that we're seeing a higher percentage of traffic on the side streets, we feel that it is a more appropriate enhancement for this intersection. We wouldn't have wanted to do it earlier when we were causing significant delay potentially to the north and southbound when there was very limited traffic on the side streets. But now we are seeing those volumes have increased. So just to give you an overview of what we will be doing here in the very near future, we're adding stop signs in north and southbound directions. They're already there for the east and westbound, so we will have 4 stop signs. We're adding red flashing beacons above each of those stop signs, so 4 new red flashing beacons. We will have stop ahead signs in all 4 directions. In the north and southbound on River Road, the stop ahead signs will be accompanied by flashing yellow beacons, and that really is to call extra attention for those northbound and southbound motorists that are used to driving that day in and day out and maybe not seeing that the stop sign is coming ahead. In all 4 directions, we also have new traffic pattern ahead signs, and those are temporary in nature, so they will probably be there for about 3 to 6 months until it doesn't feel like a new treatment anymore. And then even more temporary, you'll see for the north and southbound, does this work? Oh, it does. Oh, look, you can see me shaking. That's great. We've got the portable changeable message signs that will indicate 1 week in advance of the improvements that a change is coming, and then for 3 weeks afterward that there's a change ahead. So these are, oh, and we also have pavement legends that will be on the pavement that say stop ahead and stop at the stop bar. And then one other big change worth noting is at the northeast corner right here. We have, right now, for those of you that are familiar with this intersection, it's kind of a free-for-all right there at that corner. And good, okay, we're definitely familiar with that. So we are going to hatch that out to discourage passenger vehicles, so the everyday cars and pickup trucks from making the really wide right turn, but the pavement will still be there for trucks. I know we have hay trucks that are using this intersection, so we don't want to discourage any of those uses, but we would like to tighten it up for the westbound and the motorists turning west to northbound. I think I got everything on there. So this is all happening by the end of the month. If you've been out there yet, you may have seen a little bit of activity. It's happening pretty quickly, actually, and we're really pleased with that. Immediately following, in the next month after that, we will be installing street lighting with PGE, at least 3 street lights, if not more like 5, which will help, since about 1/4 of these crashes that we've seen here are happening in dark conditions. And then we will be conducting further analysis, updating our analysis to apply for more grant funding again. So we're looking at something bigger. This improvement, this enhancement is actually kind of meant to be a short-term improvement. We're seeing that it will probably help traffic operations in the eastbound and westbound directions for probably about 7 years until we start seeing some significant delay in the north and southbound directions. So that's our estimate, and so that gives us a good amount of time to start applying for bigger improvements at this intersection and to get them built hopefully before we have operational issues. And that's my conclusion. I have my contact information here. I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments. I have my business card too, so please feel free to contact me.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
First of all, we want to express our appreciation for being quick to respond to the needs that were clear in that area, and that you already had plans in place that were all aligned in that effort. So, and thank you for coming tonight so everybody in our community could hear what's going on. We've received emails, I know I have, and I imagine a number of you have received emails and calls about that intersection. So thank you. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You just took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you for the quick response.
Thank you.
And I have personally visited one of those establishments near there, and there's been a lot of close calls, and I'm so grateful that you're doing this. It's going to be the better for everybody.
Thank you.
So,
thank you. We'll be watching it. We have a program. I didn't really talk about this, and I should have. We do watch when we see crashes occurring at locations that are, we've seen multiple crashes at, or if we're seeing severe injuries or fatalities, we do analysis and we're constantly updating that. So we have been watching this, and these improvements are actually for operational uses as well, and really, actually, that's what warranted it, is so that we can reduce delay, but it does have obviously a benefit for safety.
to follow up, if I may,
Yes, please.
did you guys have any statistics on how many?
How many crashes?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I know off the top of my head that from 2015 through 2019, we saw almost 40 crashes.
That's way too many.
And that would include, there was one fatality in 2015, and so with the one in 2020, that's 2 fatalities in 6 years. If you go back to our crash data, that's digital. I guess that's the best way of saying it. We know there were 3 severe injury crashes in about 14 years.
Well done. Thank you.
So, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just, Lonnie and Brian both comment. This past Thursday, we had our Marion County Commissioner breakfast, and it was one of our hottest and first topics that we talked about. So Commissioner Bertano was obviously very quick to have you guys come to council tonight. So thank you both for fitting it in your schedule to come.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Absolutely. We were happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. Are there any questions? Councilor Kohler.
Just real quick, you might suggest to Commissioner Sam, once we get the funds, we'd like to have a roundabout there. Just see what he says.
Oh, we've been talking about it.
Yes.
I know his reaction to that. We'll see.
But my reaction would be that would actually eliminate T-bones. And we all know that high injury intersections have dropped to 0 in terms of fatality, and low injury and much more minor damage when you have a roundabout there. We've seen that across our nation and in other countries as well. They're very successful in that. And now that we have given everybody training wheels right here at Verda and Shamawa, we're good to go. So I'm going to put it out there. That is something that I would like to see, if it is geometrically possible, to be able to help people keep moving and not have to come to that full stop, but to be able to slow and then move through that. So just a thought.
We've been working with the commissioners over the last few years to try to warm them up to roundabouts in Marion County. So we'll see if we can get there. Yeah.
Okay. Council President Freeman, follow up.
Thank you. One thing I forgot to ask, are we adjusting the speed limit?
You know, we're going to do a study. We will collect speeds before the enhancements go in place, and then afterward, although it will obviously, it will be different, right? We have to work on this facility. We will have to work with ODOT, and so we'll collect the data and do the speed study, but I can't guarantee that anything will change. It will be based on the data. It's definitely a data-driven process.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I think there will be a lot of support that I've read, and myself personally, for reducing the speed limit to something more compatible with the uses in that area, especially even though that is in the county. You're seeing higher traffic volumes, as you know, and we will only see more, especially since a lot of the North Keizer residents use Brook Lake as their interchange, if they are still involved in that thing called commuting. So with that, any other questions or follow-up? So if you would post things or get them to Tracy as this progresses. Most of us have Facebook pages, and if there's ways that we can help get the word out about the construction, delays and things like that, I know I would be more than happy to help get that out to my circle and all y'all, to the people that you're in contact with.
I appreciate that. We will definitely be posting on Facebook, and I will share with Tracy. I don't anticipate significant delays here because it's a lot of signage with some pavement markings. So
All right.
thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, that takes us to committee reports, and we have 3 committee reports here tonight. We'll start with Mr. Gary Whalen from the Planning Commission. And on deck will be Mr. Matt Lawyer for Parks.
Thank you. Gary Whalen, Keizer, Oregon. Mayor and City Council members. Public hearing was held last Wednesday, August 12th, to amend sections dealing with the floodplain overlay zone, specifically sections 2.122 and sections 1.200, which is strictly definitions. And the reason to do this was to update the floodplain overlay zone for consistency with state requirements. After staff review, it was concluded that it would be best to adopt the state language for floodplain overlay zone as opposed to essentially rewriting most of our own section. The intent and integrity of our code will be maintained. Section 1.200 would place all definitions relating to the floodplain in one section instead of being dispersed randomly, somewhat randomly throughout the entire code. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended to the City Council to adopt the proposed text amendments. So that's a pretty big piece, but it's going to, again, not compromise the integrity of what's been developed with the river wall and other things that protect us from floodwater events. In June of 2019, the Planning Commission completed and Youth City Council adopted the Buildable Lands Inventory and Housing Needs Analysis. An intergovernmental agreement for this same subject has recently come in, which will facilitate an update which includes changes adopted by the River Road Cherry Avenue overlay. The overall goal will be to adopt the BLI, HNA, and the comp plan accordingly. And I can use acronyms.
Yeah. You defined it first, you're good.
Collect. The Planning Commission will be asked to work with the City Council on this, probably in a work session or two. And then finally, pending your approval in the next month or two, the Planning Commission will have 2 new members beginning in October. One current member has decided not to renew and the other has termed out. Deputy City Recorder Debbie Lockhart, though, informed us that there are a number of applicants for these openings, so that's very encouraging. That's it.
All right, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Mr. Whalen? All right, thank you so much. I appreciate the work of the Planning Commission. Mr. Lawyer, for the Parks update, on deck is Mr. DeBlasi for the traffic safety bike ped.
So thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff. For the record, Matt Lawyer, Keizer Parks Advisory Board. I'm going to piggyback off of Gary just a little bit, if I may, and really take a moment to congratulate Shane on an absolutely fantastic first solo meeting. He took the time to go through the entire floodplain ordinance and really did a fantastic job on that. And his first solo flight, he aced it. So really glad to continue to work with Shane and see all the hard work he's bringing to the table. So you gonna pay me? No, I'm just kidding. Anyways.
Socially distanced, yeah.
So I want to take you guys on a little journey here and think about 5 years ago and where we were with Keizer Parks. And we were struggling. And meeting after meeting, it was constant bad news. Last week was not. Last week was full of good news. And last week was full of energy and excitement. And we started off with testimony from a gal named Lisa that came in with just a story about a young man named Julio that works for the Parks Department and wanted to take the time to recognize his hard efforts and work in the parks. And, you know, to take about 15, 20 minutes out of her night to come and do that was just really awesome. I believe that Julio is one of the temps that we have on board. Is that correct? Yeah, thank you. So it's just encouraging that A, we can have temps, and B, that they're working very, very hard. We got a very encouraging letter once again from Ms. Dorfler, congratulating us on some of our success, but also reminding us of some of the things we can continue to work on. Some of those are the pathways and some of the repair that continues to happen by those. The youth grant is continuing to be successful. We had a young man come in, Blaine Elder, that will be doing a full restoration of the gazebo right out here. Okay.
Whoa.
So the Army Corps of Engineers built that many years ago. He's going to be doing a full restoration of that, including sanding and painting of that facility. So we actually had to waive the rules that night so we could get him the grant in time to be able to actually do that, because otherwise we wouldn't be able to see him until October. So that was really exciting. You know, Blaine's got a great plan, about a $7,000 project, and he's only asking for about $650 from the Parks grant to be able to do it. So, more good news in September. We'll be doing the work session with the City Council. We'll be going to Carlson Skate Park, Willamette Manor Park, Wallace House Park, and Northview. So all of these parks have had significant work done over the last 2 years. Unfortunately, last year, the parks tour got canceled twice. So the council will really have the first opportunity to see all the wonderful changes at the skate park and these other parks. Wallace House is just going to absolutely blow your guys' mind. The work that Robert and his team have been able to do down there is just incredible. Let's see what else. We have the Chair Loudon will be sitting on the voting for the request for proposal for the master plan, the Parks Master Plan that's going to be coming up. So that's going to be happening soon, the review of that. Going through all of our parks, a couple hits and misses here. I know we had some troubles down at Bob Newton Park. There was a repair to the tennis courts pre-parks fee that has failed, and Robert's looking into that to try to get that fixed. However, it's constantly being used. Pickleball teams are down there morning, noon, and night playing pickleball, so there's still a lot of use out of that, which is pretty exciting. Let's see. We had some really good article response from the Keizer Times article regarding the Claggett Creek Park that's going to be redone. A lot of folks were very encouraged by that. I got a little bit of feedback from that, and I shared that with the board, but that's going to be happening, I believe, this year, the reconstruction of the Claggett Creek Park. So if you haven't seen the designs, check out the wonderful article that Keizer Times did and take a look at that. Lastly, we're looking at some information. We've asked that staff come back with some potential options regarding the Keizer Little League parking area. That's continuing to be a bane of the existence for the users up there, and there's been some concern about some of the safety. So I know Robert's working on that and hopefully bringing us something probably in October to address that. Definitely not for this fiscal year, if not next fiscal year. And again, we're just continuing to do a lot of work. Great comments from West Keizer Neighborhood Association. They've been really talking the Parks Department up on their Facebook page these last few months and appreciating that, and we appreciate them. And that's about all I've got for now.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions on the Parks report? So you heard the list of parks we'll be visiting for the Parks tour that is open to the public. People will publish the order in which we will visit the parks so that people may come and join the council and hear what we hear at those different parks. The parks are such an important part of our community, and particularly right now when people need safe places to be outside for fresh air, both physical and mental health. Thank you to everybody on the Parks Board, Parks staff, for making those places safe, accessible, and such a welcoming place for everybody in the community. That's been a huge help for everybody through this pandemic period. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. de Blasi. Traffic Safety Bike Ped.
Evening, Madam Mayor, councilors. So yes, I will be giving an update on the Traffic Safety Bikeway and Ped Committee. We had first some interested citizens who spoke about speeding. This was primarily about the West Keizer neighborhood, but as we're all aware, it's a uniform problem. So we had a lively discussion on what some of the things we could do now, and then we're hoping that beyond just putting up the speed sign for people to realize how fast they're going, perhaps future design issues. We also talked about, and this came up, how Parks Committee has been so good about getting grants to do things to improve our parks. And so we've been trying in the past to get grant money to do stuff like we have a lot of sidewalk gaps, and we want to improve the walkability for our community. And so one of the programs ODOT has, it's now called the Community Path Program. That's more of a multi-use path program, but still something that could be important, one, to getting people either through parks or to parks or just other parts of town. The Safe Routes to School grant. We also talked about maybe we could see if we could get the COG to give us some assistance on some of our grant writing. And we have an in on that group. But some of issues with grant writing, of course, is how much are we going to get? When are the time frames for these applications? And then, of course, what would the city be willing to put into the pot? So we're at the early stages, but not too early, where we're going to be coming with a little more requests from the city to at least to demonstrate some support for some of our letter of interests that we need to submit for these applications. And that's about it. I would like to say some more. That I think we will try to work more with parks, because I think like the baseball parking lot, that's not only an issue of parking, but an issue of safety for people walking and biking in that area. And I think there could be a lot of good working together on that. And that's it.
All right, thank you very much. Questions for Mr. de Blasi? Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. de Blasi, just to add, there was something about bike helmets and
Oh, yeah. We had, in case anyone hasn't seen it, we had the Northwest Hub worked with our committee, and we had a bike repair and bike helmet, I don't want to say giveaway, but we asked for a $5 donation, but sometimes we do give it away. But that was at the Keizer Church of Christ, which is also up by the baseball stadium. We had about a dozen people come to get some bike repairs, and then we gave out some helmets. And we're always looking to get more donations so we can buy more helmets, because like I said, we charge about $5, but they're $10 a pop. So we're only getting about a 50% return when we put them out there. So. And we hope to do it again. There's another one on the 21st.
21st.
Yep.
Yeah. And I even mentioned perhaps doing it at the, Councilor Herrera's got the sign. We also mentioned doing it maybe at the farmer's market too, because some of our other places where we would do it are just not happening this year.
Right.
So.
No, I appreciate that. Follow up?
yes, just a quick follow-up. If somebody wants to donate for the helmet fund, how do they do that?
Well, I would contact David Dempster or Hirsch Sangster, or you could just send an email to anyone on the committee, and we could get that routed properly. And all denominations are accepted.
We have, either the city can accept it, or also the Salem Bicycle Club, which is a integral partner in this program.
That is correct.
And they also have a donation button on their website for these programs, and you can ask them to dedicate it to the Keizer or the bicycle helmet program.
Yeah.
So that would be very important for folks to know.
Yeah.
Councilor Herrera?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to repeat that for those of folks that are listening, because those are very valuable. The next one's on August the 21st from 2 to 4, and that's at the Keizer Church, the north of Little League. Somebody had said the one in the corner there, it's the one right north, where we use the parking lot whenever they're
Right.
out.
Exactly.
And the helmets are $5, and you can't beat that.
No.
I mean,
They're-
I'll be there on the 21st.
And they're not, some cheap, non-proven, they are fully safe helmets.
No,
So
yeah.
just because they're cheap, they still work.
Hirsch helped our Kennedy kids with that. We bought quite a few, and those are incredible. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, just got to get them to wear them. So I want to ask you a little bit about this idea of getting some grants for sidewalks and so forth. We do have the Local Improvement District program for neighborhoods if they want to get together and do a sidewalk repair or improvement. But in getting grants, I would really make sure that we're working with the order of the projects that we have in our traffic safety bike ped. We have two major ones coming up, and those are where through SCATS, the Salem Keizer Area Transportation Study that I'm somewhat familiar with, where we are going to be doing some very significant planning for sidewalk repair, sidewalk infill, but also reconfiguring for multimodal safety and efficiency. So those two projects, which are Verda from Dearborn to the city limits, and then Wheatland from River Road to the city limits are going to be very key for us. So some of the other infill, if there's opportunities where we could have some things shelf-ready for small grants that come up, that would be really good to know maybe what are some suggestions there. But in terms of grant writing, that we're going to have to really look at each of those individual projects. You know as well as I do, when you start getting into a infill project, you're talking about, oh, is that where they buried that that utility years ago and we didn't have it on our maps? That's never happened. Or, gee, we don't have the right of way, or we do. So I appreciate taking time to think about what areas would be helpful, and then research will have to go into each one. Anybody who's remodeled a house, an older house, yeah, it's each one is individual, but it's important to have the connectivity.
Sure. And we have a list, we all came up with a list, and we matched it with some of the stuff that the city has high priority with. So we're definitely trying to double up on these things rather than, scattershot.
Right. Because we, at the end of the day, the ones who have to execute on those grants are a very hardworking and dedicated staff.
That's right.
So I appreciate the conversation. It helps inform us about where areas we can focus our attention, and especially when we get these two big corridors designed and going to construction. I'm hoping we can do more projects that really connect the community and increase accessibility for people with all mobilities.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate that. Anything else for Mr. de Blasi? All right, so those who can, get down there on the 21st, bike helmets, and get those kids to wear them, please. All right. That's all I have for committee reports. Are there any other committee representatives here this evening that need to give their report? All right. The rest we'll take care of under our liaison reports. Public testimony. This time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. We have one public hearing scheduled this evening, an ordinance declaring a lien against property located at 4129 Gary Street Northeast, Keizer, Oregon, and directing the city recorder to enter such lien in the minor lien docket pursuant to ordinance number 94-282, nuisance abatement procedure declaring an emergency. So if you're here to testify for that, please make sure that you have signed up on that particular sheet to speak to that issue. And I'm going to start off tonight's public testimony with Mr. Jonathan Thompson from the Keizer Chamber of Commerce, who's here to talk to us about Keizer Fest 2.0. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. My name is Jonathan Thompson. I'm on the board of directors for the Keizer Chamber of Commerce. Came here tonight to talk a little bit about Keizer Fest 2.0. We got the committee together at the park this afternoon to put the finishing touches on the plan for our market, car show, and concert. We're confident that we could do it with social distancing. People can wear masks. We can monitor it, much like other events going on in ours and other cities. But just because we can doesn't necessarily mean we should. We are rightly under the microscope, and there are those out there who are just waiting for us to trip. One look at some of the comments on our Facebook page gives you a pretty good idea who that is. But while in a non-COVID world, I would love to show the world that we could do this the Keizer way, the consequences of even a minor slip-up are just much too great. So to that end, the committee decided today that we're going to pull the plug on Keizer Fest 2.0 and reset for next May. This will allow us to continue to serve small businesses in our community who are in no way out of the woods yet, and it will also allow us to focus more attention on the upcoming Giving Basket program. The need in our community this year for giving baskets at Christmas is going to be just completely, it's nothing like we've ever seen. Just in talking with some of the school counselors already, this is going to be all hands on deck. So we're going to start focusing our efforts now on that. So anyway, that's my announcement for tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councilor Herrera?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Jonathan, did you guys ever get to the point where you actually talked to the county and submitted a plan?
Yes, we were in touch with the
And
County
did you hear
Public
from
Health
them?
Department on several occasions with the plan, and I'm confident they would have signed off on the plan.
They Did they sign up?
No, in fact, as I explained to Councilor Kohler when we were on the phone the other day, we were kind of in a catch-22. We didn't want to go to the county for an official sign-off before we had the city council allowing us to use the park. So it was we were kind of stuck between two government bodies there. So no, there's nothing official from the county other than our discussions with their public health department.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council President Freeman, then Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Jonathan, for the information. Even though we love to have events at the park, and I walk that park quite regularly, and there are lots of events happening at the park, registered or not. But there was a very large gathering there Friday night. Lots of people having fun. Hopefully they were social distancing. I just bringing up the giving basket and the charity for the holiday season. Money can be donated to the chamber, correct?
Correct,
and
yes.
And for those that do not know about this program, it has gone on for many, many, many years. It was actually started by Charlene Weathers and Brigetta Cobb, who are longtime Keizer residents. But what is so valuable about this program is the family gets an amazing box of food and a turkey or ham. It kind of changes every year. And then also gifts for the children. So this is something that is a Keizer, I'm going to say, cherished by the chamber and lots of volunteers. And so I would just encourage, if people have the means to support this event, I know the chamber will take your cash donations and actually help on the day too. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, Councilor Freeman, thank you very much for that. Yes, the chamber kind of absorbed this program as it grew, and last year we served over 400 kids. This year, I think it's going to be much more than that. We are again hampered by the fact that our major fundraising event for that happens in September, and that's moving all online now. We're still working with all of the schools in Keizer to sponsor for their teachers and things like that. So that's all happening. It's just happening virtually. But yeah, the needs are going to be huge. So anybody that wants to help in any way, we'd be happy to take your dollars and your time.
Thank you very much. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was basically going to say the same thing, and you can certainly sign me up for any time and probably the cash donations as well. But yes, again, thank you for that. And again, just realizing that, this is such a wonderful thing to do for the holidays, but, the things like the Keizer Food Bank and those ongoing needs. And I know that the chamber is very involved in supporting the Keizer citizens that you're involved with, but just again, reminding everybody that there is need everywhere, and big thanks to the chamber for filling a great deal of that need, but it's everywhere. So that's basically all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Many cities, organizations have cherished traditions, and they have found creative ways to do it safely, from a drive-by bans on floats to all sorts of events around cities across the state. And I know that one of the things we love to do is get together in some fashion and celebrate. Jonathan, you, the board, Danielle, and the staff have worked tirelessly to keep focused on the main thing, which is to take care of the people of this city, of our community, who are working, trying to figure out a way forward, to take care of themselves and their families. And while the Keizer Fest would have been an important too, because there are funds raised, you're really focusing on the have to. We have to take care of each other because that's who we are. We have to take care of our kids because we are compelled and we are compassionate people and we want to make a real difference. I know it's been hard for everybody to give up things we enjoy, but when we can see a family doing better, a family receiving food that they need, a child getting a gift that makes them feel special, that goes such a long way. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I look forward to also joining with you and everyone in this community who has been blessed to work, to have the means to share, because together we're going to be able to help everybody come through this hole. Thank you. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the same note, that was part of my advertisement for the Percy event. Percy auction was listed here. And so if you would like to make a donation or buy tickets, you want to contact Corey at the Chamber, CORRI at keizerchamber.org, or you can call 503-393-9111.
Awesome.
We're going to be hiring a new person for the chamber. Was that, I mean, you're doing so well. I thought maybe.
I may be looking for that.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Thompson? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's do this. All right. And just for the record, I believe we all received an email from a Mr. Daniel Potter who had severe concerns about the event, and I think Mr. Thompson has more than addressed those and even more than that. So, but I'm going to add this to the records here for public testimony. So that will be part of the packet. Next, I have several people who have identified their subject as living in Keizer, so I am just going to start from the top of my list and work through it. So Andrew Daya, did I get your name correct?
It's Daya.
Daya.
Everyone makes that mistake.
All right, my apologies.
Good evening.
Welcome.
Madam Mayor, council members. My name is Andrew Daya. I've been a Keizer resident for 3 years now. I'd just like to talk about some of my experiences in Keizer and how it relates to inclusivity and how that's not been addressed by this council or the city. When I first moved here, my in-laws came and visited me 2 weeks after I moved into my house. All my neighbors welcomed them to the neighborhood. The second week I moved here, I was walking my dog down Delight Lane up to Chemoa, sorry. I probably got it wrong somewhere in there, didn't I?
That's okay.
I had someone drive by me, stop, stare at me for a solid 30 seconds, drive down the road, turn around, stop again, stare at me for 30 seconds, and then drive away. I still, to this day, walk my dog down those same streets and have people stare at me. And I'm just kind of curious how that hasn't been addressed. Ever since, the George Floyd murders and the start of many protests around the country, including in the city of Keizer, I've been called the N-word. I've been called a terrorist. I've been called Antifa. I've been called CIA, and multiple other derogatory terms coming from citizens of Keizer. So I'm just curious how this council, how the police department, and how other people in the city plan to address inclusivity in the city. And at what point are we going to get a public statement from each of those people and how we plan to address inclusivity and what actions, tangible actions, the city will take to make sure that everybody that comes in the city of Keizer, no matter whether they live here or are just passing through, feels comfortable on every single road in Keizer. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have a question for Mr. Daya? So just for the record, I live around the corner from you, and I also walk on Delight Street with my dog. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I hadn't had the chance to meet you yet, and we're glad you're there.
Thank you.
As to your question, we will be having a work session on city actions that we have taken over the last couple of years as we are looking at systemic issues regarding how we do inclusion, how we look at our systems here in Keizer, so we can take action on a city policy basis. In terms of being able to change the hearts and minds of people in the community, that is going to be an ongoing conversation for all of us as human beings, one to another. And I am deeply saddened to hear there are people in our neighborhood who would not treat you with the dignity and respect that you deserve as our neighbor and as a fellow human being on life's path. And this is something that we're going to have to continue to work on because the vast majority of people, I want to believe, are decent human beings. There are people who don't share our values of dignity and respect for all people. And we need to continue to help each other to promote that. The attitude, the compassion, what we're hearing tonight about giving up a beloved festival because our business people and our children are more important. But sir, you matter. And
Thank
you're
you.
my neighbor, and I'm proud to have you in my neighborhood.
I look forward to when you have those, and I hope you open them up to the public.
They absolutely will. Every city council meeting, our work sessions are all open to the public. We do put them online, and if there's another means by which we can more effectively invite and include in that, please get those to us. We are always looking for more venues for being able to get the word out to people to come, and based on the number of people here tonight, face coverings on everything, way to go. I think it's important to let people know that we want to have these conversations, we want to meet one another, and we want to get to know our neighbors.
Thank you.
Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Andrew, thank you for being here, and I feel you're, there's a lot of us, even as a counselor, that experience not so friendly stuff. And you know what? I always thought, well, I've lived here 44 years, and it still happens, you know. And I understand that. We are going to do, and believe me, I've been talking for doing this for quite some time. Some folks don't think that's happening, but it really is. And we focused earlier on Charter 44. That was kind of a thing, and we discussed on and on. We came up after talking to our city attorney that the best option was a resolution. Am I correct? Yes. And we're headed that way. I mean, but as far as you know, the hearts and minds of folks, that's something. But I think it is important that we do have something tangible that says, you know, Keizer is a welcoming community. I believe that. I mentor a lot of kids at Kennedy where the majority of the kids are Latino, and I've heard a lot of undesirable comments with our leadership group that, you know, we have a positive group and everything. We do a lot of things, but it's always a bummer when you hear a story from a young man that tells you something, and it's sad that it still happens, you know, although they're far and few between. You know, it's still out there, and I just want to thank you for having the courage to come up and talk about yours. And I did participate, as did Councilor Reed, in one of your events, the Black Lives Matter March, and I appreciate you organizing that. So thank you for being proactive and doing something in community.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so
ma'am.
much. Would you please take my business card? I think Tracy has them in the back, and I do have my email on there. So if you would pick that up on the way out, I'd like to get to know you, my neighbor. All right, thank you very much. Sarah Grantham, Keizer's Equality While Living.
I didn't get to finish. I walked away.
Welcome, Sarah. If you just introduce yourself with your name and your city of residence, time is yours.
My name is Sarah Grantham. I'm a resident of Keizer, and thank you for having me. I would definitely like to see Keizer have an inclusivity statement, as well as, you know, have our counselors have their own statement. I understand as a group we need to be individuals, but it would be great to have the leadership show that as well. So I'm up here. My journey started quite a while ago about equality in Keizer. I grew up in a neighboring community, spent a lot of time in Keizer, chose to live here, chose to raise my children here, have been in sports with my children. Some faces kind of look familiar, maybe from the soccer field or, you know, if you got kids. But that's kind of where it stops. Our journey has changed this year for our family. We went from being a normal, we're none of us are normal, Keizer family, participating in our community, letting our kids ride their bikes to school, to having my son get pulled at stopped on his bike on his way home from school, less than 10 minutes after school got out, held at gunpoint within just a block of here. And it's horrific. And, you know, a lot of people say we can't speak for the kids. We don't know their hearts. Well, I know my son's heart. And I know that his heart and his trust in his community was broken that day. And I don't know if I can ever trust my community and leadership until I see an equality statement and actions. My son was racially profiled and held at gunpoint by one of your officers.
Not true.
Not true? Okay, I'm not going to do this here today, but I know the heart of my family and my son and the challenges that it has brought into my family and the concerns and the, you know, we all want our kids to be able to go to the park and enjoy themselves. But what I've noticed in Keizer is we want these to be inclusive parks, inclusive areas. But when these kids leave these parks and these inclusive areas, they're a problem. They're thugs, they're on my street, they're riding in and out of cars, they're not on the sidewalk. You know, there needs to be some eyes that notice the people who use these facilities in your community are kids of color. They need support. They are not a problem going from the park to home. Open your eyes. It's the same kids on the soccer teams. It's the same kids on the basketball teams. These kids have hearts. They're in our schools. And that brings another topic. Our kids need to feel safe in school. And having RSO officers in schools do not make them feel safe. And that is firsthand experience. So thank you.
It's her time to talk, please.
I'm done if you have questions, but.
All right, thank you. I want to make sure you were not interrupted with your time. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Do you have questions? You made a statement that I was lying, so.
I didn't say you were lying.
You said it wasn't true.
That's right. We've hashed it and rehashed it.
Have you spoken with me? No. Have you?
I'm not going to hash it out here. The department has
You
talked.
called me a liar at a city council meeting. You can address that. Thank you.
Councilors, city manager?
Here's the deal. I do not want to debate.
You shouldn't have made a comment. That's the deal, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will let the chief have his comment now. Sir?
I'll just not comment right now.
Okay. City manager? Okay. Appreciate that. Councilors? Any comments for Ms. Grantham? Council President Freeman?
Thank you. I don't have a comment, but Sarah is my neighbor. We've had several conversations, so thank you for coming, because I did ask her.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Next up, I have Brandon Sherrard. Did I say that correctly? So if you would just introduce yourself and name your city of residence, and you have, the time is yours.
Is right here okay?
Yes,
Or is right?
we can hear you now. Yes.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
Wonderful. My name is Brandon Sherrard. I'm a resident of Keizer for 2 years, and
Welcome.
well, it's also my kind of intention here to echo the statements expressed by my friends here, Andrew and Sarah, but also to kind of speak to, these larger issues of inclusivity and equity from the standpoint of being a white male. And I say that because there is inherently more of a position of relative power, not on an individual scale, but just as aspects of my identity, these things factor in. And I wanted to be here to show that it is important to use one's voice, especially if one finds oneself in a position of, if not power, then perhaps even just, point blank, even if these issues don't affect you, it's important that you arrive and you make your voice heard and you make your presence felt to speak on behalf of those who are affected by these issues. I haven't experienced, anything quite like what my friends have spoke about today. But that doesn't mean that I can be complacent or not say something or not join in on the conversation or advocate that it take place. So in addition to that, sorry, I took notes.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
In these tumultuous times, it's imperative that members of a community express support for all members of that community so that they feel encouraged to participate in their community. Like I was just saying. Discrimination and prejudice, overt or otherwise, does real harm. And a lot of the time, most people will say, well, I don't do that. I'm a good person. I was doing my job. I was this and that. But things can be covert or under the radar, or they can manifest in ways that we don't notice. And so it's important that even if we feel like we've done what we can, we listen to those who at least feel that otherwise is the case, if that makes sense. And this prejudice, it has a way of propagating from individuals to individuals. And so, Madam Mayor, when you were speaking about having conversations with, your community members and your neighbors in order to make that change felt at the level of individual real people, because statements are very important, and I too would love to see one be created, and even individual council members have their own statements. That's important, but having that conversation between individuals, that helps the prejudice that is really insidious and covert stop propagating, and that hopefully will result in real change. And that's kind of what I'm seeing us as doing. Andrew, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm seeing that happen all over the place here too, and I think that's super important. In addition to peaceful protests, we must work to increase community engagement and involvement so that it can truly be our own, and so that it can be welcoming to everyone, including our systemically disadvantaged folks of color and otherwise. But there you go. I think that's about it for me.
All right.
So.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you sharing your thoughts, and I'm glad to know somebody younger than me also needs to take notes to remember what you're going to say.
Oh, if I don't, I'm just incapable.
I use this as my excuse, but that might be ageism. But no, anyway. First of all, thank you for your thoughtful, reflective, and your commitment to making your world a better place, person by person, and in using your voice and your presence as well. And that's what makes Keizer a community and makes us strong. So I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you having me today, and having
anytime.
all of us.
The door's open every time. All right, counselors, questions? All right, well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here, and also, would you grab my card, and let's exchange some ideas.
Sure, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Next up, I have, I hope I'm reading this correctly, Ramiro Navarro? Okay, that's how we wrote it. I'm just reading what you said.
Madam Mayor, council members, thanks for having me. So I wanted to make this short and sweet, but everybody brought up some really good points today. So I think
Oh, I'm sorry. Your name and city of residence for the record.
Oh, my name is Ramiro Navarro Jr., or RJ for short.
Okay.
City of residence is Keizer, born and raised Keizer. I'm going to be 31 in October. Yeah, I've been here a while. I remember going to the movie theater over by the Ford dealership. Grew up, and yeah, my mom played bingo at the bingo hall, and still I get those stares that they talked about. Still, I get those stairs walking down the street, the same streets I grew up on. I used to play at the skate park right here. And it's unfortunate that we have to address it this way, but it needs to be addressed. And I was hoping Mr. Thompson would have been here so we could address some of how the Keizer Chamber, I believe, plays a major part in that as well, at least when it comes to helping Latino businesses. So first, I'd like to read this resolution. This is a resolution for the city of Keizer to be an inclusive city. Whereas immigrants and refugees of all nations have contributed to the health, well-being, and general welfare of the city of Keizer as families and neighbors. Whereas immigrants and refugees of all nations have contributed to the prosperity of Oregon as workers and taxpayers. Whereas inclusion and integration of all residents of Keizer is a vital concern to the general welfare of Keizer in all respects. Whereas discrimination based on national origin or perceived national origin, race, ethnicity, language, gender, sexual orientation, marital status, disability, income, citizenship status, religion is a chronic aspect of life for many Oregonians. Whereas chronic discrimination leads to community disengagement, diminished opportunities for integration, increased stigmatization, greater incidence of health morbidity. Whereas chronic discrimination negatively impacts local economic activity. Whereas promotion of health, well-being, and general welfare are core obligations of Keizer. Whereas prosperity requires harnessing all of Keizer's available labor, skills, and ideas to grow Keizer's economy and expand opportunities. Whereas every Keizer resident should be treated with compassion and respect, regardless of identity, national origin, or citizenship status. Whereas under the national constitution, the immigration power to exclude and deport is reserved exclusively for the national government. Now, therefore, Keizer resolves that Keizer is an inclusive city and embraces, celebrates, and welcomes all residents of any national origin, race, ethnicity, language, gender, sexual preference, marital status, disability, income, citizenship, religion, and their contributions to the collective prosperity of all residents in Keizer. Be it further resolved that the use of city funds, personnel, or equipment for the enforcement of federal immigration law is prohibited. And be it further resolved that the provision of services or benefits by Keizer shall not be conditioned upon a resident's federal immigration status, religion, race, ethnicity, country of origin, language, gender, sexual preference, marital status, disability, income, and citizenship status, except as required by federal law. I ask that we declare an emergency in passing a resolution like this. Just this last weekend, we've seen individuals come from out of town and attack people just for being different than them in our capital that's right up the street. Just the week before that, we've seen federal agents tear families apart in Bend. And that's everywhere. We never know when they're gonna show up. I know families here in Keizer that have been ripped apart, that have the whole family lives in Tijuana, and the daughter is the one raising the rest of the family, the ones that are too scared to come outside because of federal immigration agents. I think that we need to declare an emergency in passing this so that communities of color can feel safe coming outside. And this is just the first step. So I ask that you, our Keizer representatives, make adopting this resolution a priority. That way we can move forward with addressing other systemic issues where all Black, Indigenous, and people of color are recognized for the sacrifices and contributions to the prosperity of our community in an effort to create a genuinely inclusive community for all. And, sorry, I'm getting worked up here.
You're fine.
But, yeah, I believe that this is something that we need to make a priority. That way we can address the other systemic issues that we do have in this community. One that I wanted to address with Mr. Thompson was the fact that during this whole COVID crisis, little to no information, public health information, has been relayed to the community for the Latino businesses. They don't know what's going on. The only reason that they got the grant funding that they were able to get was because I was able to relay that information to them. And that's not my job. They have a Latino outreach coordinator who doesn't speak Spanish, that doesn't return emails in Spanish. I know, because they're still in my inbox. And still, we want to put on this show, this act that, yeah, we're an inclusive community. I think we need to start with this resolution and then go from there.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, would you be willing to give a copy of that to the city recorder for the record?
Thank you.
That would be very helpful. You had a great deal of thought obviously the passion, but there was a lot of pieces in there that we've been discussing and that could be part of what we will be able to discuss at the end of September when we have our work session to discuss these issues, but also look at equity and how we provide services in this community. And we have several really good examples for being able to take steps going forward. So I invite you to be part of that work session. But I would really like to have a copy of that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, if I could I'd like to just respond and say, I'm not sure about that effort. I haven't been part of that. I have been part of some initiatives with Councilor Herrera and the Latino Action Committee to get on the 30th of this month, we're having a Spanish COVID resource event at St. Edward's at my uncle's church in Keizer to be able to address this issue because it needs to get handled now. It can't wait till September. We need to be able to get these resources out to these families and these communities and make it a priority. But yeah, I'd be more than happy to join those conversations as well.
Thank you. Councilor Herrera?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just so you know, Ramiro, I've been on council since 2014, and the very first goal session, I put that on there, and it's on every year. And I did what Dick Withmell says, scorecard, and I admit we're not doing a very good job, and nobody's held accountable, and it's kind of hard. But I really believe that. I mean, I had a grandmother at Kennedy Elementary who has never had a bad experience like that, and somebody called her a wetback at Safeway, and she was totally traumatic.
Yeah.
I never seen her. I mean, and it really hit me hard. That I've always put that on our. Just so you know, people, I have been actively. I put on a thing every goal session that we do. And it's always up there. And the last meeting that we had, we haven't gone anywhere. So I feel a little disappointed there. And I'm glad that you folks are bringing this up because it's something that I think is important. And for those of you that have never experienced it, trust me, I just got another hate mail letter the other day, calling me a name that I'm not American and I was born in this country. So it happens a lot more and it's like COVID. If you don't think it affects you, it just, it's weird. And I feel passionate about it because, when it happens to your son, your cousin, and then your neighbor, and then, and other people's worlds, they don't hear about it, they really don't. But in our world, even a counselor hears about it. I mean, so I'm with you there, and I think that it's long overdue, like I said in my letter. Thank you very much for taking the time. There's people in this room that are probably thinking, big deal, it's not a big deal. Well, it is a big deal to those of us that it affects, it goes in, it goes in your crawl, and then it's really hard, really, because it brings back memories of 5th grade when you got beat up by the cop, 12th grade when they grab, all these things come back to your mind. And I don't want to think like that. I want to think like Keizer's a real inclusive town. And I think we do need something. So thank you very much thank you for my rant, Mayor. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Want to make sure everybody has their say. Any other questions for Mr. Navarro? So I do have some things that I can share regarding the Marion County Public Health and People of Color Leaders meetings that are happening on a weekly basis, working with, and also the Mid-Valley Community Outreach Alliance. Would you grant me a moment to read the organizations and groups that are working very hard? And I would encourage people to connect. And if we're missing somebody, something, some opportunity, definitely want to hear it. The Mid-Valley Community Outreach Alliance includes Pineros y Campesinos Unidos del Noroeste, PACUN, Mujeres Luchadoras Progresistas, I'm struggling a little bit, Latino Business Alliance, Oregon Human Development Corporation, Oregon Employment Office, Woodburn, Advanced Economic Solutions, Farm Worker Housing Development Corporation, Unidos Bridging Community, Western Oregon University Multicultural Center, Mano a Mano, Salem, EZO Marketing, the City of Independence, Community Engagement, Portland General Electric, Oregon Childhood Development Coalition, Oregon Education Association, the Higher Education Coordinating Committee, Northwest Human Services, Ajivoy, and I wish they'd spell out the acronym, I don't know what it stands for, Consulado de Mexico in Portland, Micronesian Islander Community, Oregon, and Capaces Leadership. Also involved in these conversations is SEDCOR, the Strategic Economic Development Corporation, again, trying to find more and more avenues to reach Latino businesses. Willamette Workforce Partnership, and the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, Business Oregon, and Chemeketa Small Business Development Center. So there's a lot of organizations that are working together, communicating, and finding as many outreach opportunities as possible. If we're missing anybody, Jody Christensen from the governor's office wants to know.
Apoyo familiar. It's right here in Keizer.
Okay, if you
That's
would
one
get
that's
me
missing
that.
from that list.
So I'm sorry, Avijoy?
Apoyo familiar. Apoyo familiar.
Okay, apoyo?
Apoyo familiar.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So if you would get me that contact information, I can get that to Jody Christensen from Regional Solutions. And if anybody knows of other organizations that could be helpful in the outreach, one thing that Marion County is working very hard to do, especially with Pacun, is to make sure that they were ready for and able to take care of and be very innovative for some of our part-year residents who come here and are very important members of our community for farms. So that was they had to break the mold in order to make sure that happened to keep people safe. So if you would get me that contact information, that'd be very helpful.
Perfect, will do.
Thank you for indulging me with reading that very long list, but we want to make sure that we don't miss anything.
Perfect.
Thank you. Tracy, I will put this in here for you, because I went kind of fast. All right. Next up, I have Rich Rodriguez talking about water for free. And then, counselors, you have a photograph on the dais with a short memo from Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, staff, and most important, the citizens of Keizer. First of all, I'm here to talk about millions of dollars and pennies. But before I do, I want to say thank you to those that spoke before me, because I think those are very pressing matters before us. We can miss a few $1,000s here, a few $1,000s there, but these issues that these citizens raise determine the quality of our community. Madam Mayor, before I get to the corpus of my message here, I'd just like to touch on something I brought up a couple months ago. The desirability to refinance some Keizer Station Local Improvement District bonds. Since I spoke at that time, one thing has changed. The bankruptcy of Men's Warehouse. It's likely that these businesses in Keizer Station are suffering from this COVID. I spoke with our finance director here, I think it was last week. The cost of issuance for the bonds, bond counsel, et cetera, that can all be baked into the cost of issuance. So it's not going to cost the city anything to make it easier for these businesses to prosper. Thank you. Water for free. On July 17th, 2020, I was right over here by the Public Works area, and I captured an image, oh great, thank you for putting it up here. I captured an image of a man stealing water from the city of Keizer. I had quite a discussion with this man. I learned that he has a for-profit business selling water services. It's well known by a number of people in the area, like this man, as he told me, that Keizer has free water for the taking. At this time, when so many people are economically distressed, why does the city permit free water to commercial businesses such as this man? He told me he has a fleet of trucks, one of which he calls a well on wheels. He fills it up, goes to a client, and sells it. That's interesting. Surely, at this period of time, when some citizens in this community are likely having difficulty paying for their water bill, we're giving water away. It's in the best interest of the citizens of Keizer that controls be put in place whereby the city water at this industrial access point be paid for on an equitable basis to the benefit of the citizens of Keizer. Who here, council members, will propose a resolution or direct staff to establish controls on the industrial access point over here that captures when water is taken, by whom, and how much? And two, direct the Public Works Director to present to the council rates and fees for the approval, for council approval, for taking of water from this access point. That's the end of my statement. That's pennies. It's dollars. And these are our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm good. City Manager.
Bill.
Mr. Lawyer.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Would you like the history of why we provide water for free to gentlemen like this?
Yes, I would.
Okay. As you know, our water system is comprised of wells, well water. Well water has minerals in it. When you move high volumes of water at large velocities, it stirs up the minerals in the water, and we get dirty water complaints. Customers get upset. Many years ago, decades ago, this was determined to be a problem. A lot of cities allow people to get water out of fire hydrants, to fill water trucks, construction activities, things like that. Keizer does not allow that. That's against our rules. You cannot take water out of a fire hydrant. In lieu of that, we provide the fill station for construction outfits, water trucks, trucks serving drinking water to the city of Salem 2 summers ago when they had their algal bloom. We're filling up there as well, at no charge. We used to bill for that water. And what we discovered real quickly was that for the most part, the administrative side of billing the individual, like the gentleman in the picture, for the water costs more than the water. People are not very happy when you send them a bill for $5 worth of water, but $15 worth of administrative charges. So we elected to just don't bill them. We took our log sheet, threw it away, and it's been open for the public for, I don't know, that facility's been in place for 25 years, at least by now. I saw the information from Mr. Rodriguez this afternoon, and I did a little looking at, we have that's metered, by the way, so we know how much water goes through that meter on an annual basis. Based on the current water commodity rate of $1.58 per 100 cubic feet, or 750 gallons of water, or 748 gallons to be 100% accurate, totals about $5,100 over a 4-year period that we lost in revenue. I don't consider that a lot of money on a $2 million annual water fund budget. An average about $1,200, under $1,300 a year for the water that we're providing at no charge. I don't see a problem with that. If the council would like me to change that operation, we can certainly put in place a process for people to log, and it's going to have to be somewhat on the honor system without significant change to the facility whereby they have to input a code or something to get the water. We could implement the logbook again and send bills on a quarterly basis to those that use it, if you would like to.
All right. Thank you very much. So you said $5,100 over 4 years.
4 years, that's 2016 through 19. I did not look at 2020 because it's not a full year yet. These are calendar years I was looking at. So
Okay.
yeah, 16 to 19. And the use or the consumption was pretty consistent year to year. 1 year was a little higher than others, but that's not, I mean, maybe there was more construction that year. Or just hit me,
Salem.
that's the year we were giving water to Salem.
Yeah, that was
Well,
Salem.
the Salem residents, I should say, not to Salem, we were giving it to the residents.
Well, we have the interties, just for folks who may not know, we have the two interties, correct, with the city of Salem? I know of one.
We have two.
We have two.
One
that's
of which,
metered.
Cherry Avenue was activated, Intertie was activated for a short time during that period, but it wasn't very long. The rest of the time, we were providing water from the fill station and another fire hydrant on Bailey Road for water trucks, National Guard, and other water trucks to fill up and distribute drinking water to Salem residents.
Okay. And I remember at that point, we were also very careful to make sure that it was to residents because there were some unsavory businesses that tried to price gouge, and that was very offensive to, I think, everybody who saw those pictures and read about those.
I am a little curious what the
Incidents.
gentleman in the picture is doing selling the water. Who's he selling it to and what's he selling it as? Because what I see in the picture, I don't believe he can sell that as drinking water.
Okay.
I don't believe that's a potable water container on the back of that truck. So maybe it's other uses, I don't know. But that does pique my curiosity.
All right. Well, if you want to follow through with that, that would be interesting to know. And City Manager, also Mr. Wood, as far as cost benefit, just if you could have a follow-up for us, just a brief memo, so we would be able to have that information, and then we could make an informed, or have an informed conversation about that. Would that be okay? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Maurice. Any other questions from council? Thank you very much. I have no one else signed up for public testimony this evening. Is there anybody else who would like to address the council? City Manager, you have a comment.
I just have a comment about what we witnessed this evening, and I wanted to thank you folks for coming here and using this venue to discuss with your community your issues and our issues. This is the way to do it. And we've been seeing lately in other places where this kind of process has become not civil, and that's not in the best interest of those communities, and it's quite honestly not helping that message get across any longer. But this was the way to do it. I appreciate it. I invite you, encourage you to get involved. The awesome thing about government at this level is that you have the actual ability to make tangible differences in your communities if you engage and if you stay engaged. So please do and get involved. So thank you, though, for how you presented your information tonight, and thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, City Manager. Is there anybody else who would like to address council tonight under public testimony? All right. Then we will continue on with our agenda. Thank you all very much. This has been an enlightening and food for thought conversation. I appreciate it. We are going to now open a public hearing on an ordinance declaring a lien against property located at 4129 Gary Street Northeast, Keizer, Oregon, and directing the city recorder to enter such lien in the minor lien docket pursuant to ordinance number 94-282, nuisance abatement procedure, declaring an emergency. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor and Council. This matter is before Council by notice public hearing for a nuisance abatement lien with regard to property at 4129 Gary Street Northeast. We had some significant code enforcement issues there, significant amount of garbage and debris on the property. When the owner failed to take action, we took, after duly notifying the property owner, we took action to abate that nuisance, and that cost was $660, including the administrative charge. In addition to that, there's publication costs, so the entire proposed lien amount is $731. There's photos attached there for your information, and if you have further specific questions about that, Mr. Witham might be able to answer those. We have an ordinance for you for passing that declares that amount a lien to put in the lien docket, and with that, at the close of the hearing, the recommendation is to pass that ordinance, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report? Seeing none. Is there anyone signed up? So no one has signed up to testify in this public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to address the council on this issue? All right, seeing none. Are there any closing thoughts? Close the public hearing. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council adopt a bill for an an ordinance declaring a lien against property located at 4129 Gary Street Northeast, Keizer, Oregon, and directing the city recorder to enter such lien in the minor lien docket pursuant to ordinance number 94-282, nuisance abatement procedure declaring an emergency.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt a bill for an ordinance declaring a lien against property located at 4129 Gary Street Northeast, Keizer, Oregon, and directing the city recorder to enter such lien in the minor lien docket pursuant to ordinance number 94-282, nuisance abatement procedure declaring an emergency. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, one absent. That is all I have for public hearings tonight, so that will take us now to administrative action. The first item is item 8A, request for use of Keizer Rapids Park during COVID-19 pandemic. City Manager.
Canceled, I believe.
Cancel?
Yes.
Not really. Mr. City
Let
Attorney?
me see here.
Well, there is a little bit of a matter with regard to this. The Chamber has withdrawn the request for the specific event, Keizer Fest 2.0. There's an issue, as I put in the staff report, with regard to whether council wants to revisit the issue of park and park amenities being open for reservations. So currently, staff's decision was, it just seemed appropriate to not try to figure out the rules and err on the side of safety. And so we are currently not taking reservations for groups. Council President Freeman noted some events down there that maybe we should discuss either now or offline to see if there's some ongoing problems. So it's up to council. My preference, but council can choose to just go forward with the discussion tonight, is with the withdrawal of the chamber that maybe staff take another look at this and come back with more detail on a broader basis. We were kind of forced to bring this issue to you because of the chamber's request, and because after discussion among the department heads, or at least Chris and Bill and I, that it did not seem appropriate to allow chambers use if we were not going to allow any other use, obviously. And so that forced that question on us at that time. So if council wishes, we can bring that back at the next meeting with a little more detail. I'm hoping to get a little more detail from the county, which I do not have yet in terms of what their protocol is on this approving a plan. I was hoping to hear about that tonight in terms of some detail. And I did talk to Jonathan, had some good phone calls with Jonathan and Danielle about this last week. But I had not yet made connection with people at the county. So I'd like to do that first. The other issue that just came up last Friday is the Public Works Director, Bill Lawyer, indicated that they've had some requests for block parties, which are street closures is the technical name, where we close usually a cul-de-sac, but sometimes not a cul-de-sac, a short section of street to allow a block party. So the question there is whether or not you want to delegate that to staff. We do have an extra Monday, so I don't know if that's going to be causing some concerns because we're going to end up out of summer here, whether or not you want to delegate that to staff to review. Because currently that issue has been a staff issue until this latest thing came up with the chamber. So that's kind of a mouthful, but those are the kind of the two issues that I wanted to raise tonight to see where the council might want to go.
So let's talk about the reservations for parks facilities first, because that would initiate a conversation between people who want to use that facility and the city, and an opportunity to have that conversation about what are the requirements in order to reserve that space and use it under the current guidelines. So that is one perspective. And City Councilor Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess my question is, for this is, if an event is outside and you can have so many people as long as they social distance, would the city be liable if we did open up the reservation system for that group on a permit basis? And I guess my other thing is, I know that you know, the volcanoes is their own thing and Little League is their own thing, but you look at that and you say, well, That's a city park, and they're allowing 800 kids there on a weekend. And that's Volcano Stadium, and they have all these vendors with all these people. And I think people look at that and don't realize this is COVID, and people are still going about their daily lives, which that's fine. You don't need to live in fear, but at the same time, what are we doing to like offset that? Because as a city, we've done nothing for the Little League, and we did nothing when Volcanoes had theirs. So why are we're allowing that? Is what I'm saying is we're allowing it to continue. I understand it's a private thing. I understand this, but that Little League park is still a city park.
Well, on the Little League, I'm going to go to that in a second. I know with Volcanoes, what they do is they work very closely with making sure that they set it up in a way that was going to be responsible and responsive.
That's what the chamber was doing.
Right.
They were going exactly by that model.
Right, and I get that. There's a lot of organization that's involved with that, and could they have pulled it off? Possibly, but again, that's a commitment of effort that they had to decide which was going to be most important. As far as Volcanoes, I'm thinking of Saturday Market downtown. They've structured that in a way to be able to operate, and they are working as hard as they can to enforce distancing and face coverings as well. Because when you're moving about, one cannot guarantee that you're going to have that distance, as we all know. So I can speak to that. On the Little League Park, and I did get an email from a person who was also had a perspective that it was being very heavily used, which it is. However, being a city park, and Little League has requirements to be able to, with compliance. Are they not also required to comply with all Marion County and state regulations under these conditions?
Yes, and I'm actually glad Councilor Parsons raised that issue. First with regard to liability and then the stadium and Little League. Before I forget, I didn't put anything in the staff report about the liability issue. And I'm going to talk real briefly about it right now. You're not going to like my answer because it is a typical lawyer kind of wishy-washy answer. But the reality is there's just not a lot of lawyers around right now who've had experience with COVID liability. So anything then even an experienced attorney would tell you would be based on something that is hard to find something similar to, okay? With that being said, I know that I have talked to some colleagues about the issue of permitting something. So once we permit something, there is going to be some liability connected there. What I was going to say tonight with regard to the chamber, except they kind of took the wind out of my sails with that part of it, is that if the chamber could come back with a plan that the county literally approved, and I'm not really sure the county literally approves plans or if they just advise on them, but if they literally approve the plan and it was a plan that you could reasonably determine could be followed as a practical matter, I would think that would reduce the liability. And wouldn't eliminate it, but I think it would have reduced the liability. So that's the comment I would have on the liability issue. And I'm really glad you raised that because I was planning on talking about that. With regard to the stadium and the Little League, I think those are two fairly significant different matters. The stadium operates on a ground lease. For all intents and purposes, the stadium controls that as if they owned it. We would expect them to follow all the rules. We have general language in the lease. We don't have anything about COVID in the lease, but I would expect they would follow it. If we got word that they didn't, we would not be telling them as an enforcement action because we are not in a position to enforce those rules. However, we would say as a landlord, you need to follow those rules. Little League, though, is different, and that's why Bill and I, and Chris too, have taken some time on these complaints and followed up on them. And what we are hearing, and we'd be glad to revisit that and go down there ourselves or send somebody else down, is that the number of cars in the parking lot is misleading. There are not as many people actually there, and that for the most part, and the one complaint I talked directly to before and after, I asked him to visit again a second time and actually get out of your car and walk all the way in there, is he said, pretty good compliance. He said it wasn't perfect. He said about 3/4 of the people were wearing masks. He was very surprised and pleased to see people in the dugout wearing masks. And so he felt it was good. Now, maybe that was one good day and there's some bad days. We will follow up on that. If we have concerns or complaints about the Little League, I will be back in touch with Ryan and the other folks there about that.
Well, yeah, because the day that I went to visit, there was no parking available. They were parked in the church, they were parked on the road, they were parked the whole parking lot, and Lord, it was completely full because I was going to park and walk through there myself, but I couldn't find a place to park. So that tells me there's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people if they're all parked. All the lots are parked full.
Every field was being used.
Yeah.
Every field.
My understanding is, and we have actually contacted Little League and asked them about this. And my understanding is that they have been in contact with the state, not Little League, but the tournament purveyors have been in contact with the state and have a plan that they have been issued that they're following according to the governor's requirements. And that a lot of times you'll have all of the fields in use, just the parents that are responsible for the children who are playing. And a lot of those cars that you see have people in them sitting in the parking lot waiting for their turn to utilize the field. So not everybody that's in those cars or that have games there are on the field at any given time, so that they can keep that 6-foot social distance. So the investigation that we've asked people to provide us information on is that they're doing a pretty good job of following the state's requirements. So that'll alleviate a lot of our concerns, quite honestly. Now, I haven't been down there personally to witness that during an actual game, but we have received reports back from 2 to 3 people asking them specifically, what are you witnessing? And we've received the same information back. So.
Thank you. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Who monitors that over there? Are they responsible? Do they put out a plan? Do they tell you, here's what we're going to do? And does somebody oversee that?
Theoretically, the tournament people are responsible for the tournaments, for compliance. And it would be either the county health department, I believe, would be the enforcement agency.
I believe so.
Yeah, or OHA, so.
Because I noticed, I go to Saturday Market and they have a pretty cool system, actually. They have guys at the corners that give you masks, and they have one ways. You can only go one way. And it flows pretty good. And I'd say maybe there are about 200 people there. I don't know if you guys have been to Saturday Market in Salem, but it seems to me like somebody must have approved something for them to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's happened with the Little League, is they had to submit a plan for approval by OHA.
Okay.
So, and the enforcement wing, it falls to the county health department and county sheriff's department.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions on the Little League Park specifically? So that's a unique situation again, because we have an agreement with Little League on the management and so forth. So Volcano Stadium and Little League Park are unique, but when we're talking about reservations for the gazebo, Keizer Rapids Park, and things like that, people are obviously getting together. So in my brain, I'm thinking, do we want to see if we can grab some control back? So we ask them to produce a plan, ask them to produce a thoughtful consideration of how they are going to comply with the rules, because right now, we don't have that. We don't have that leverage. We don't have even that touch point.
So remember that a reservation only allows them exclusive use, but anybody can use any facility at any time without a reservation.
Up to a certain number of people. And I did not bring the park regs with me, and I cannot remember, I think, is it 50? So the rule is and I don't know how you read somebody's mind, but I think it says if you contemplate there'll be 50 or more, you have to apply for a permit. And so, looking the other way, Salem is having some issues with Riverfront Park, I know, and they're trying to determine there, and they're reluctant to issue permits, but because of liability concerns. But the flip side of it is people are going to go there and use it anyway, then you're going to have difficulty. So.
Right. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I'm wondering, if we were to permit, does that make us in charge of enforcement, or is that still the purview of the county or the Oregon Health Authority?
Well, I mean, I think that ultimately, if we permit it, we're going to have to uphold.
Okay, so that would put the
It would
onus
put us
of
clearly in the
enforcement
position
on
of having to
us.
uphold the requirements.
And that was one issue I was going to talk about with regard to the chamber issues, that although the conditions, the proposed conditions that I put in the staff report for that event, or that they monitor that, I was going to talk tonight about the issue that I think that we would want to have at least some minimal oversight too. And that's a resource issue, so.
Yeah, it is. Mr. Lawyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to take a moment and mention that routinely, the only thing we reserve in the park system are the gazebo, the covered shelter at Keizer Creek Park, and the amphitheater. Okay? Those are the routine reservations we deal with. The thing the chamber was proposing, that's a unique situation. We have the ability to reserve some open space, maybe at Keizer Creek Park. That's about it. So we're not talking about, first of all, a lot of opportunity for reservable spaces. And from my standpoint, I strongly encourage to continue the no reservations through the summer.
So what do you see as the advantages to the no reservation?
Takes a burden off the city staff to have to enforce, if you will. I don't really like the word enforce, but to check and make sure that the people that are reserving the facilities are following the rules. That's not something that certainly park staff or public works staff have any experience doing. I doubt the police department's going to be real happy or encouraging to want to have to do that as well. I just think that if we're going to permit something, we have a responsibility. If we don't permit it, we lessen that responsibility. People can use the parks. We all know the parks are open, and we're encouraging people to use the parks. If they have a gathering in a park, they have a gathering in a park. The city is not permitting that to happen. We might be allowing it to happen by default, but we're not permitting it.
So what might be an opportunity for us to get the word out, or maybe post at the parks, that compliance with Marion County and state regulations needs to happen in parks if you're doing events? Because I'm not sure we have any signage out at the moment, but as reminders to people and that just tells you I haven't been at any of those parks recently. If those signs are out there, that's great, but I think there might be an opportunity to do some communication on that, to remind people that this is not a woohoo, I can be out here and do whatever I want. We need to encourage and remind people that this is important.
I know that we have signage at all of the play structures
Okay.
and the attractors, okay? in
The
parks.
shelters, things like that?
Shelters, things
Okay.
like that. I don't believe we have any signage at all entrances to the parks. We can look at adding some of those.
I like it.
Just as reminders.
Yep.
Happy to do that. But I know we have the playgrounds, playgrounds and tennis courts, sports courts, all of those are signed and have been for weeks and months already. But if we want to add signs at entrances, we can certainly do that.
I think that might be a good help to remind people that we're taking it seriously. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What about the boat ramp, Mr. Lawyer? I mean, it's great to see so many people using the boat ramp, but there is no social distancing. I mean, they're lined up trying to put everything in the river that they can, and they're swimming, and they're hanging at the boat ramp, and they're walking down the path. And I know we can't stop people from going to the park, right? But I'm just saying that is a big park. And yeah, you can post a sign where the life jackets are, but I'm not trying to be rude, but I don't know that people are gonna look at it because it's hot and they're cooling off at the river. And so
Interestingly enough, I visited two of our parks on Sunday. my wife and I and our dog. And I visited Marion County Park. And what I saw at our Keizer parks, there was very little activity. We went to Wallace House in Sunset. Got to visit with the neighbors while I was there. That was quite fun at Sunset. And then we went out to Spong's Landing, and Spong's Landing was busy. There were a lot of people putting in floaties into the river. I don't know if they were floating down the river. I don't know what they were doing. Doesn't really matter. The county has signs posted up down there. I don't think it made a bit of difference.
Yeah.
People are doing what they want to do, what their plans are. We can put some signs at the boat ramp, but I really don't know.
I mean, they were parked on the road, on the side of the road. They were in the field, they were in the side, in between the path and then the grass. And like, it's a good thing that the grass is mowed short as it can, right? Because there's so many cars there and it's extremely dry in that area. But I mean, you've got them lined up waiting to go in the water, and they're using the picnic tables there. I mean, it's nice to see our parks so busy, honestly.
What we've tried to do is spread out picnic tables and not encourage gathering in a particular spot within the parks. Short of that, I really don't know what else we can do. I mean, like I said, we want people to be out enjoying the outdoors, enjoying the parks, enjoying the river, enjoying all those things. And, they have a certain responsibility to do the right thing. I'm not so sure it's the city's role to enforce people doing the right thing all the time in every situation.
Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a couple questions. First of all, is this kind of signage, whatever other signage we put up, could that be something that is under the CARES grant as far as the financing for that? So that could be part of that. Okay. My other question, and I don't know if anybody has an answer to this, but do we have any kind of record of people having contracted COVID at public parks, either at Salem or Keizer or any other?
No, but that's not to say that it hasn't happened. It's just that we don't have that detail of record. So.
Okay, and just wondering, that seems that it should be part of this conversation, but.
Right, yeah, so the data is only reported by zip code, and that's as close of a detail as you can get.
But it hasn't been designated any hot spot or anything like that by the county, or? Okay.
Isn't it like if they only have to report it if there's like more than so many, otherwise it's not reported? Like there has to be 20 cases, I think, in a specific area. 5?
To be considered an outbreak or
5 and up.
Something like that.
Knew it was something like that, but you had to have that many people be in the same area at the same time getting it, or they're not going to report it.
Okay, so we've had no reports about that from any park kind of setting. Okay, thank you.
And I think that's an important point. We have seen in other states and other parks where large gatherings, especially if they're having an event that has resulted in transmission. That's not here in Keizer that we know of, but city manager's right, we can't get that data. It is the dickens just to get whatever data we can. And if we think we've got a tough time, Marion County Health can't get it either from Oregon Health Authority.
What data I can give you specifically is that no City of Keizer employees have contracted COVID-19. Yes. Period.
Parks employees or otherwise.
Any employees.
Which is excellent. And we're very happy about that.
But that's the only data I know for sure.
Okay, thank you.
And, Marion County is working very hard to get out the data that Marion County has to make sure that they get that to us so we can make informed decisions, but also encourage people that this works because it is keeping our numbers flatter. It does make a difference. So this is my gator. As far as next steps go, one, for additional signage, I think that there are some prudent locations that would make sense to add signage to remind people that just because you don't see it, this is a reminder, cover your face. Sneezing and coughing on people just still isn't a good idea. And I don't think it ever will be again, just saying. I put on my Facebook page, I said, anybody else not have a cold since this all started? Anybody? Anybody? I haven't had one either. It's been awesome. Number two, as far as reservations, what I'm hearing from staff is that this is not advisable at this time. If people are interested in using our parks, to make sure that we have good information to give them to, if they want to be there, keep it at a smaller group and remind them of the rules. And for distancing and not having large groups. But if we catch wind that somebody's going to have a big blowout down out at Keizer Rapids, that's a no-go. You know, we can't have big groups descending and, under our normal rules for 50 or more. Not okay. So I don't know what we're going to do about that. Kind of tell them to disperse. And if somebody's throwing a big bash down there and they just put on Facebook, hey, come and everybody meet me down at Keizer Rapids, because that has never happened. We want to make sure that they're not using our facilities and we're not getting a reminder that that's not okay. With that, though, I'm hearing that at this point we will not be opening up reservations, which answers my question about what I'm going to do with an event that I was looking at doing. So, thank you. Anything else that we want to discuss on this at this point?
What about the block party?
Block party.
Or is that we're including in, because there was.
Oh, that's a separate issue. Yes, thank you, block parties. And I know those have been done safely in other communities. Block parties. Yes, no? No. Mr. Lawyer.
I would echo my comment from earlier. It's one thing to permit them, it's another thing to allow them. We had a block party in my neighborhood on National Night Out, believe it or not. Yeah, it was National Night Out. Impromptu, I came home from work, knew nothing about it, and they would gather in front of my house across the street. Did a good job of distancing themselves. That's something we typically would have gotten a street closure for. Didn't do it. Just an example of a neighborhood block party gathering that was done by the neighbors with no city involvement, no city permission. It was fine. So I would propose the same thing. One thing to permit it, another thing to allow it.
Okay. At this point, then, it sounds like that's probably the path forward, similar to the chamber, looking at our cost benefit and putting our efforts into taking care of each other. Okay. Any further comments? All right. Let's go on to item 8B, which is surplus property report fiscal year 19 to 2020. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. 1 second here till I get to it. Excellent, thank you. Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, as required by City Ordinance Number 2008-579, I'm required to give you the Keizer Front Porch Pickup Report. So this is the annual report of all of the items that we have disposed of over the last year.
Uh-oh.
Sounds like I need to add something else to the list.
Oopsies.
Hopefully no injuries.
All right.
I won't bore you with a lot of the details, and before the question comes, I do not know what the 24 action figures were. If it was a 12-inch G.I. Joe, someone made out pretty well, so.
Or Star Wars.
With that, this report is for your information only, but I will address any questions if you have them at this point.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any questions on the staff report regarding the surplus property report? All right, I don't see any. So that concludes, make sure I've got that right. Yep, okay, so that concludes that particular item. Thank you for the report. It was a very interesting read, and yes, I did wonder what the action figures were. All right. That takes us to the consent calendar. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items on the consent calendar tonight. Item 9A is a resolution authorizing the finance director to enter into a lease agreement with Rico USA Inc. for community development copier. And 9B is approval of the August 3rd, 2020 City Council regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls? Seeing none? Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council adopt the consent calendar tonight, items 9A and B.
I second that.
The consent calendar has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, one absent. Council Liaison Reports. Councilor Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mine is short and sweet. Because I was on vacation one week, and then last week I attended the chamber board meeting. They did talk obviously about the event, but the biggest thing that they talked about was the Percy event, having a virtual online Percy event. People can still buy tables, which sponsors 5 children at a school, and they can sponsor that school. And then they're gonna have an online auction and send all that out. So it's still happening, but it's happening virtually like everything else is. So for more information, if you go to the Chamber Facebook page or the Chamber website, though, you can get more information on that. So that's still happening because these kids still need help. You know, they still need gifts. They still need that package under the tree. So we will work on that. But that's about all other than the event. But they're still having a golf tournament, which is allowed at McNary Golf Club on September 25th. So if interested to golf in that tournament, let them know, they'll sign you up. And then going forward, I'm gonna be gone for a month. I will be back on September 21st for the city council meeting. So far away.
She's really going to be socially distanced.
Yes, very far.
Very socially distanced, all right. Thank you very much, Councilor Parsons. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a tough week. I was kind of out for a week. Very unproductive week. Lost 12 pounds.
The hard way.
The hard way. Yeah. My wife thinks it's pretty good, though. Anyway, on August 11th, I participated with LULAC's elected officials panel, which I've been working with, and we're discussing some of the challenges that we have. On August 12th, I participated along with Police Chief Teague here on the Neighborhood Family Impact Committee. And I guess now I'm on the Racial Equity and Justice Committee for the Community Business Education Leaders. And we're going to review their equity statement and see, tweak it or whatever. I guess that's going to be our goal. On August 14th, by the way, we are one step closer to getting our People of Color caucus with the League of Oregon Cities. I, along with Commissioner McGriff from Oregon City, appeared at the Bylaws Committee, and after discussing and answering their questions, first we went to the Racial Equity and Equal and Equity and Inclusion Committee, and they recommended to the Bylaws Committee. And the next step was to get them to approve it, and they unanimously approved it to go on to the League of Oregon City Board. So we're one step closer to becoming a reality, the first League of Oregon Cities Color Caucus in the state of Oregon. I'm very proud of that work, along with Sean O'Day, who has been incredible. He's the attorney, and I'm the big mouth, I guess. Judicial fitness meeting also. As a commissioner on that committee, I'm learning a lot about social justice, and I'm learning that our judges and attorneys, they make mistakes. They mess up sometimes, and we have to kind of review their cases. On August 25th, I had a meet and greet with, let's see, what was this? Oh, no, that's August 25th. We're going to have the meet and greet for board members of LOC. I'm can't even read my own notes here. And that's going to be for folks that are interested in taking the next step for being into the League of Oregon Cities state board, which is one of the requirements that they would like us to do. Their Equity and Inclusion Committee, for example, has 4 white guys and 1 lady. So they want to try to make it an Equity and Inclusion Committee, kind of like Keizer, you know. And then, of course, I wanted to thank whoever is our gentleman, Mr. Lukanich, who's doing, the artist who's doing that front pole there. He's doing a fabulous job. I've been kind of watching him, and man, that is some pretty talented people. I mean, with a chainsaw. But anyway, if you guys have time, go check that out, the second pole. First pole's beautiful, but the second pole's, it's amazing to watch his work. Anyway, I also wanted to thank everybody for their allowing all those folks to come up and speak. And I'm really glad that folks are speaking out finally. I think it's long overdue, and I won't go any more into that, but I'm very glad that's happening. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Council President Freeman.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a report tonight on the Planning Commission, and we met on the 12th. The 13th, we had the Marion County Commissioner Breakfast, and you heard and saw the presentation of the area on Quinnipiac. And if any of you talk about another watering hole up at the North Fork, they have a lot of parking issues, and so they were going to be up this past weekend heavily patrolling and ticketing. So if you're parking where you're not supposed to be, probably shouldn't be. So those were kind of our big discussion items, and just make sure. We talked about the recycle building that's being built in Brooks. Talked a lot about that, and the solid waste burner. So just, lots of random conversations early in the morning, but all good with that. I know the splash fountain is open, and nice to see everyone there. You've heard me talk about the boat ramp. It's extremely busy, which is great. I had the fortunate walking in today, I met Hector, who's one of our interpreters, who is interpreting for our Latino population in the other room. So that was really, really nice. Kudos to Bill. I walk Keizer River Rapids Park a lot, and it's really clean, and I see the parks person, whomever is driving around picking up trash. In fact, he was on the path or whatever, the circle, I'm not sure what anyone calls it, we call it the path, and it was like, what is a car doing on the path? Well, it was the public works guy, so it was, but there's just a lot of people down there, and then when you see a rig kind of driving around, it's like, what? And then my neighbor had I guess his water line wasn't working. Anyway, your staff was out front, and from my husband, very professional, very nice, did excellent work, and just very, very pleasant. So pass that along to staff, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also was at the County Commissioners Breakfast, and that is really a special thing for me because I don't generally get to do it during the school year because I'm teaching at that time. So anyway, that was really fun, and Councilor Freeman did a good job of recapping what we talked about. I appreciate that. I guess Councilor Herrera left the news of the McNary graduation for me this time.
Yes, I did.
It has happened, and it was covered really well by the Keizer Times. Just really, it was a special event. A lot of people did a lot of really hard work to make that happen. It was a very unusual kinds of circumstances. They had staff working 12-hour days to make that happen, and just really appreciate everybody who participated in that and made that special. So, and there were the other private schools and so forth did their own graduations and did their own thing. And I really appreciate just everybody making this a special year for our 2020 graduates, because it was a really tough year. And it's not going to get any better anytime soon, but we appreciate that. So thank you to all staff that made that happen. Last week I attended virtually the National League of Cities Conference on Thursday and Friday of last week, and that was a really interesting conference, two of the sessions that I attended that I thought were the most interesting and useful was one on effective communication and advocacy. And that's one thing that this current crisis has really helped us do, is be able to fine-tune some of our communication messages. Usually a disaster hits here and we try and learn something from that. A disaster hits there and then, we try and learn from these little hot flashes. That's not what I meant, but that's what I'm having right now. Anyway, we can learn. Communication is also, it's so important part of what we do. And so, anyway, some really interesting insights in that. I'm happy to share with anybody who is interested some things that I learned about that. And then probably the most interesting session that I attended was doing the work externally and internally, race, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And basically the essential question for that session was, what can cities do to promote equity and inclusion? And it went far beyond just the words. It went into some of the actions. And I would like to share some of this when we do our work session on this, because it was some really good concrete information about what can we do. Because this is these are very complicated issues, and they're misunderstood by I would say most people, and this is something that we as a city can be a lot more concrete as to what we do about that. So I will be sharing that in future work sessions, and that's about all I have for today.
Thank you very much. Councilor Rivera, you wanted to say something?
May I add something? Your graduation, guys, and I should have mentioned this. The 2020 graduating class included 19 of our scholarship recipients from the LAC that we awarded. And not only that, 9 of our kids from Kennedy Elementary that we had in 4th and 5th grade leadership went on to graduate. And all 9 of them, we didn't have one in our leadership that did not graduate from high school. So it shows that if you guide the kids at an early stage and bring them, like we did here, bring them in and take them out to do community service like we do, and play games with the senior citizens, do all kinds of activities, picking up garbage. And I really believe that sets a foundation for those folks to finish. And I'm so proud of those, it'd be like 27 kids that we had impact on. And they're all except 3 of them are going to do on to other education, some of the different things, but it's a great warm feeling to see that those kids that, some couldn't even speak English and they end up doing really well in school. It's the American dream, and I'm so proud of them. Thank you.
And it takes a village.
It does
Appreciate everybody's efforts in that, and that is really important. And thank you very much. And it is so exciting to see the fruition of our labor. Thank you.
Thank you. And then before we let you go, school's getting ready to start in some fashion. And so as a McNary High School teacher, for which we thank you gratefully, what can you tell us about how that's going to roll out as of today?
Yeah, well, that is the key. But yes, I've been party to the McNary staff meeting has been every week for the past probably 3 weeks, a month or so. And throughout the summer, Superintendent Christy Perry has also been doing regular updates insofar that we can tell. And I've also been tuning into those. And so, we are doing, the Salem Keizer School District is doing K through 10 through mid-November at least, and then grades 11 and 12 are going the whole first semester, which is the end of January, online. So we are really trying to make that a meaningful experience, and we are going to be starting that. The starting date has been pushed back to September 14th, largely so that they can actually get teachers trained to teach in a distance format a lot more effectively than we did in the spring. So one of the really key elements to all of that is that we have good contact information. As a teacher, I was trying to contact students and parents all the time, and I had bad numbers, or I didn't have the students' direct numbers, or that contact information is really critical. And you have control over that on your student view or the parent view platforms. And so just making sure that we have that, because it's really frustrating when we get somebody who says, well, I haven't heard from anyone. Why is somebody ignoring me? In reality, there have been many teachers and staff trying, multiple times to get a hold of people, and we just can't if we don't have good information. So that contact information is really key in all of this. And I know there are springing up some community supports for this as well. Some faith-based organizations are providing people with some information on how to most effectively do distance. The thing of it is the post-secondary education, a lot of the colleges are doing more and more distance learning. And so this is actually kind of an interesting way to improve all of that from the K through 12 all the way up through the post-secondary. So have patience and grace with kids, with teachers, with parents. Everybody needs that right now for so many reasons. And so just really encourage people to be out there doing their best. Kids need to be engaged and doing their best in that. Parents also need to do that. And I know that we can consider spring a warm-up, and I think that we all learned lessons from the spring as far as what was difficult and what we can do better, and we will definitely continue to implement that and improve on a daily basis. So that is basically the outline for that. There is a section on the Salem Keizer webpage. I believe it's called Back to School 2020 or something like that, where you have this information. There are charts there that give parents some suggestions on how to structure a kid's day, or it's also for teachers as far as what that might look like. And so, and the key will be flexibility, because it does change. Things are changing all the time with this. So. The school district is trying to provide as many resources as possible, so make sure that you're looking on those web pages. And I'm sure the private schools are doing, they're also figuring things out as well. And there are some interesting innovations coming out of this.
There's the silver lining, the innovation that's coming from this, and
yes.
The opportunities to develop new skills. Anybody here not develop a new online skill in the last 6 months? No hands went up. But to that said, thank you to you and all of the teachers, the parents. So if somebody says, well, I haven't heard from my teacher, do they go on the website to get that information?
All the teachers' email addresses are on the website. Okay. For sure, as are the, I want to say the phone numbers. The district just rolled out where every teacher has his or her own phone number attached to that. So I'm not sure what that looks like on the web pages, but yes, okay. We are absolutely accessible through email, through phone, and Remind too is a big thing. Every kid is set up with Remind for each of their teachers, each of their classes, and so that's another online way to get a hold of teachers. So there's no dearth of communication avenues.
So we will encourage them, get that information, and make sure it's current.
Yes.
And then another thing is hotspots for kids who may not have access to broadband. Excuse me. Are they going to have a map of hotspots? I know that there are certain facilities that do have hotspots, and Comcast is working on expanding those opportunities as well.
Absolutely. That is one of the biggest priorities of the district, to make sure that everybody has access to the internet. And there's been some talk about having hotspots available where there are food outlets available through the different distribution sites. And so, yes, that is definitely something that they're working on. Comcast is working on it. More information, more solid information to come, but that is a big priority.
Awesome. I look forward to sharing that information.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Well, thank you.
Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There have been a couple of things I did this last week, couple weeks. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about them. I got to go to a Keizer Chamber greeters on the 11th at Willamette Valley Bank, and it was just a real pleasure to see all the things that Willamette Valley Bank does for the community, and it's refreshing to be involved in something like the chamber where you get to see all the things that are happening, and it's just really fun to watch. August 12th was Councilor Elizabeth Smith's birthday. So I just wanted to mention that. Yay, Elizabeth. And the 13th, I got to go to the County Commissioners Breakfast, and I appreciate being able to do that. I always enjoy this group, and they really do care about Keizer. That meeting's been reported on pretty well, thank you. And then 13th, I went to, also 13th, that evening, I went to the Traffic Safety Bike Ped Committee meeting, which we talked a little bit about, and there are some other things that we can discuss at a later date about that. And then August 21st from 2 to 4 p.m. Is the bike repair. And if you've got some wishes to kind of help people with bike helmets, please donate. So that's Sergeant Goodman retired this last week from Keizer Police Department, and we wish him well. There's several others that could retire, and I'm just so, the more I get to know our Keizer police officers and sergeants, the more thankful I am that they're here. Some of them could retire already, but yet they stick around because they love being in Keizer and love doing their job, and
They love Chief.
we appreciate that. Don't want to mention names, but Chief Teague is one of them. And so we really appreciate him. And then August 19th is Cook's Night Out. If you're not familiar with that program, that's something the Chamber put together before the pandemic and after the pandemic. Now it's started up again. August 19th is Cook's Night Out from 5 to closing at the Hitching Post. And that people that participate in that are eligible to win a $100 gift certificate. More information on the Chamber website. And then again, just want to put another shout out for the Percy event coming up. That really makes a lot of difference for an awful lot of families in our community. So purchase your tickets again through the Chamber, 503-393-9111. And then this Thursday, Council Parsons asked me to attend the Volunteer Coordinating Committee for her. So I'll be looking forward to doing that.
All right, thank you very much. I just have a couple of things to add. I was able to travel and spend some very precious family time and snuggle time with my grandson. So the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance has continued work and has now established the ORS 190 that is part of that, the continuum that's going to be able to help us be able to be the collaborative applicant to HUD, Housing and Urban Development, for grants coming to our nonprofits in Marion and Polk counties for adding to our services for people who are homeless and housing insecure. So that work continues to grow. That is one of the most amazing groups of people, both the Alliance Executive Committee, and then on the 13th, the full board met. And when we go around the room and we talk about what's happening in our different communities, Monmouth, Independence, Polk County, Marion County, City of Keizer, City of Salem, hearing about the way organizations, the governments, nonprofits are reaching out and effectively taking care of people, helping them be on a pathway to success. Projects that are open, Redwood Crossing is now open. And that is a project that was constructed over on Fisher Road, permanent supportive housing with on-site services, similar to, much smaller though, than Cornerstone. Sequoia Crossing is now under development. They're working on plans for that, another permanent supportive housing, really working hard to increase capacity. And Safe Sleep over on Front Street has gotten their plans ready to go forward with expansion. So right now, they can have 19 women sleeping there, and the safe place for women to sleep and not have to worry about anything but just sleeping is healing for those incredible women, and lives are being saved. So those are just a few examples of what we as the two-county community have invested in significant resources that are practical, they are trauma-informed, and they're getting results for people in our community. Built for Zero is part of that as well, and we are one of 81 communities across the nation that are getting assistance through that program, and that is specifically helping us reduce homelessness for veterans and our chronically homeless. New to our board are councilors Christopher Lopez of Monmouth and Shannon Core of Independence. Okay. The Keizer Heritage Board met on the 11th. Major repairs are continuing. The new lift is, I think, getting ready to be inspected and put into operation. Painting for our grand old 100-year-old schoolhouse next door, and a roof to make sure that building is going to be in very good shape for years to come. There's been a lot of hard work by the board members to make sure that they are taking good care of that building and using the funds that have been accumulated over the years for the sinking fund to do exactly what they were designed to do. This coming Saturday will be Coffee with Kathy. We're going to do a virtual from 9 to 9:30 on Facebook. And then for those who wish to join us outdoors at Jeff and Cheryl's at McNairy from 10 to noon, all face covering and social distancing will be enforced. It's a great opportunity to have a conversation, talk about things that are important to folks, and I take lots of notes at these. These are very important for me to hear from people in the community about what is on our minds. On the 25th, the Salem-Keizer Area Transportation Studies, SCATS, will be meeting along at MWACT, which is the Willamette Valley Area Commission on Transportation. We've been talking about the upcoming 1924-1920 STIP, the Statewide Transportation Improvement Plan, and getting projects like the Aurora-Donald Interchange fully funded. So hopefully we can do a one and done rather than phased. That would be something I would very much favor, since it would save a nice tidy chunk of change in the amount of $7 million. Woohoo! More importantly, it would save lives. That interchange is dangerous. It has cost, lives. It has caused injury with crashes there. Getting that sucker rebuilt and up to modern standards is a priority. Speaking of interchanges that need serious help, Brook Lake and the Interchange Area Management Plan has been funded. That is going forward. So once we have the plan, we know what needs to be done, then they can go after those construction dollars. Can't get the construction dollars until you have the plan in place. Just making sure people understand that. And people going, well, where's the money to build it? You can't apply for the construction dollars until you have the plan in place. So you know what you're getting the money for, because the federal government's a little funny about giving you money for things that, we'll figure it out later. Not so much. We have to have that plan. We have to have the data. Then we can apply for the money. But getting Brook Lake figured out and planned for is very, very important to Keizer. McNairy High School is going to have a virtual ribbon cutting on September 2nd. So I've been invited to be part of that. They'll film it and then they will broadcast it, and then it'll also be on the website. So that construction project, as I walk up to Light Street, which is in my neighborhood, and then walk in the non-fenced off areas of McNairy, you kind of see what's going on. It's amazing what has been happening there. And our upcoming CELTs should be very proud to be a part of that when they are able to be on campus once again. The 2nd of September also will be the SEDCOR, the Strategic Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors meeting. And that's all I've got at this point. So I'm going to turn it over to our city manager for other business. This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, and our staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. City
Thank you, Madam
Manager.
Mayor. Tracy. Chief. Bill.
Just one thing, Councilor Freeman mentioned it kind of earlier. Now that summer's almost over, we're finally up to full speed and operating at full capacity in the Parks Division. Took us most of the summer to get some temporary help, but they're on board. They're fully capable now, and it's showing in the park system.
Very good. Shane.
I have nothing to add.
Tim.
I can hardly contain myself. Today was a very exciting day for the Finance Department. We got to drop the final check in the mail for our water bond loan. So we're paying off a 15-year loan today. So that was very exciting. That's all I have.
Woo! Yay.
Shannon.
Nothing, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Does anybody have anything they didn't get a chance to ask?
I've got one from Mr. Lawyer.
Okay.
Were you able to get a hold of the school district about the corner at Delight and Dearborn that has that funky little wiggle in it and the drop-off?
Yes. And I used the technical term of hokey with their representative, and he used the technical term hokey with his contractors, and they are going to correct the hokiness.
Thank you. I look at that and I go, broken ankle.
Yeah, I think what they showed in the sketch they sent me is they're going to add asphalt. If you're familiar with the area, that kind of half circle that exists, they're going to make a straight line from the back over to the ADA ramp. So
Thank you.
I don't know when, but yes, they will correct it.
I will be very happy when I see that go in. Thank you. And my ankles will feel a little bit less threatened because right now I go like, I want to go around it. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Written communications, I think some of the ones that came via email we presented earlier, and they're in the pile here for the record. Agenda input, September 8th, which is a Tuesday, will be our next council meeting. We have a 5th Monday in August, and on top of that, Labor Day is one of the later days than it can be. So our next council meeting will be Tuesday, September 8th at 7 p.m. And then we will have the council work session on September 14th at 6 p.m. for the annual parks tour. And again, for people who want to meet us along the way and hear about what's going on in our parks, that will be published. We will meet here at City Hall, correct, Tracy? Okay. And then we will go from there. September 21st at 7 p.m., the Keizer City Council will meet in regular session. And then on September 28th, we will have a work session to talk about our council goal regarding inclusion. All right, anything else for the good of the order? It is 9:27 and we are adjourned.